All right, pop quiz. So, anybody here last time when I spoke? Hands up? Yes, good. Okay, so this is how this works. I brought 5 copies of my book. There are a number of pop quizzes throughout this presentation. We'll have a pop quiz. Whoever gets the answer right gets the book. You got to do show of hands, okay? This is, But last time, I walked home with all of them. And I got to tell you. What's that?
If you walk home with all, do we get a refund?
Ooh, good question. That's a challenge. No, because the fault won't be on me, it'll be on you. You know the answers to these questions. Okay, so 25,068,681, 2,861, 47.6. What do these numbers represent?
Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Could be 6 degrees of freedom. It looks kind of like my LinkedIn networking.
Good idea. Wrong. Next.
Square roots.
Good idea, I think. I'm not a math guy. Definitely wrong.
I don't know.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
25 million miles is the distance Santa Claus travels on Christmas Eve.
You scare me. Wrong. Good answer, but you scare me.
He's changing the rules, so he's doing something right.
And by the way, there's nothing wrong with changing the rules. Okay, Kevin, bring her forward.
Here we are.
All right, 25 million people change jobs in America every year. Do the math. 47.6 people per second. And I'm not basing this on an 8-hour day. This is a full day. Get a job. 47.6 million people a second. I'm not making this up. This is statistics. Real live statistics. The 10% rule, give me a break. We could only hope.
Could double it and add 20.
So there's one book I don't have to give away. So the point of all this is sometimes people get stuck. I know I do. I got to do PowerPoints. Sometimes people get stuck because you're looking for that perfect word, or you're trying to craft that perfect resume or the perfect cover letter. Anybody ever been there? Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, what was that movie we're talking about?
It's a Wonderful Life. Remember, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings? Well, change that. It's a 47.6 job hunters just changed jobs, and you weren't hired.
Remember
every time
that.
you hear a bell ring from now on.
So when you're agonizing over being perfect, 95%, 90% is oftentimes good enough. So don't let that kind of procrastination stand in your way. Remember those numbers. Okay, guys, the secret weapon, it is you. I sign all my books. The future, your future, is in your hands. And I give it to you because you're reading it. It's supposed to be a play on words, right? Because it's the future. It's in your hands. Absolutely nobody, not your mother, not your wife, not your kids, cares about you as much as you. Nobody has to care as much about you getting a new job as you. You can network. You can spend all the time you want on a computer. You can go jogging. You can do whatever you want. It's your life. But remember, it is your life. It's your responsibility. You have to do this thing. You're your biggest asset, and we all know the opposite of that. You're your biggest liability. Are the best, you're the most passionate. I talk about this, and Martin and I are going to disagree just a little bit because he does stuff that's special. But let me digress for a second. When I wrote this book, I wrote the book because I went to Chapters and I stood around like you can in Chapters for 2 days reading all these books on how to get a job because Nortel had just laid off 8,000 people in my town. And of course they went through outplacement. And you know what outplacement is like, right? You show up, they tell you how to write a resume, and then they give you the list of all the recruiters and they go, hey, good luck. And so you're supposed to go and call all the recruiters in town. Well, when 8,000 guys get the same instructions, the phones are insane. I had to go home for 2 days. We were answering the phone, see the website, see the website, see the website. I couldn't get a line out. So I went to Chapters so I could build a list of here are the books you have to read. And I'm standing there reading these books going, oh man, that doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work anymore. So I decided to write like a 10-page guide, like just a quickie to give away for free so people wouldn't bother us. Well, that led to my first book. Why is this important? Because I started getting these resumes that look like every other resume. You can go to the bookstore and get, it's a famous series. It sells a lot of books called 101 great resumes? Anybody ever seen these things? There's books and books of them. So you know what happens? Everybody takes the same template. You change your name, you change the address, you change about 4 words, you know, and you send it out. What happens, Martin? Nothing. You don't get a job. You get depressed. You don't get you buy more books because you think they're better books. So at the end of the day, you're your best and most passionate advocate of what you do. So your resume has to be written by you. Can it be polished up, buffed up by a professional like Martin? Absolutely. But the first iteration and the passion has to come from you. And think back the last time you hired somebody and you're sitting at your desk with a stack of resumes going, oh God, I just want a project manager and I got to read all these things. Think about it. Did any of them really jump out at you? Probably not. You may have done what most people do. They go, Susie, come on in for a second. I got a special task for you. Susie comes in and goes, listen, here's a list of 3 things I want to see in a resume. You go sort them. So those specially crafted resumes from those finely expensive books that you've just bought and done now get done by Susie, who's making, no offense, $9 an hour, making a decision on whether or not you are the right candidate to do that job. Fair? No. Reality? Absolutely. Terry, am I making that up?
Nope.
No. See? There's another professional back. That's a beer.
And email's worse. He's talking about paper resumes, which have their place, especially in a networking event. Ideally, you're going to hand your resumes can be walked into a hiring manager's desk and put down in the middle where there are no other resumes and you have no competition. That's where we're headed tonight. We'll give you ideas and strategies to do that, but email's worse. So whatever he said, double it and add 20, and that's the pain factor when it comes to resumes coming in by email.
So before you do that, now I remember why we put War Story there.
Thank you.
So, War Story. 22 years I've been in the business. Who remembers the recession of 2001? Thank you very much. You know where I was in 2001? I was I had just hung up the phone a week earlier and had refused to sell my search firm to the number, at the time, the number 8th largest search firm in America, who offered me $2.7 million US for the firm. I am the firm, okay? And by the way, they knew that. Did I regret turning them down? Absolutely not. To this day, I made the right decision. But about 3 weeks later, the recession hit. And it was all in one day, okay? Monday morning, I'm minding my business, doing my stuff, making my calls, and something happens and a client who doesn't call me on a Monday, because we got scheduled calls, calls me and says, listen, stuff's happening and I got to put the search on hold. I'm busy. Yeah, okay, no problem. Click. Next phone call. Click. Same thing. Click, click, click. We lost the 3 largest searches we had in 45 minutes. The rest of them over the next week. 20 searches down the toilet. Here's what happened in 2001. Some employers, like recruiters, a lot of them don't, okay? So what they did to all the recruiters is they gathered them out over the peninsula in Halifax in a big scrum, moved them over to the side, pushed them off the cliff. People that are in the industry are nodding their heads because you all know. Pushed them off the cliff, poured kerosene over the side, took the match and said, see ya, guys. Boom. What happened? Well, a bunch of us are clinging to the side of the cliff going, oh, God, not me, not me, not me, not me. It took 9 months for me to get my first project. I made 1,114 cold calls to people I'd never talked to. And by the way, to me, a cold call is a cold call, which I've already sent a letter. So the letter, the cold call, the fax, the voicemail. So 4 points of contact, 1,114 times to get my first deal. I hang up the phone, I'm ecstatic. You can't believe it. And my secretary says, let's go celebrate, let's go have lunch. I said, hell no, I'm on a roll. And I was right, because the 1,115th and the 1,116th were a deal. Why is this important? Because, you know, you work by yourself a lot of times unless you come out to meetings like this. You got to have a process, you got to do it, you got to have the discipline, and you just got to keep at it. Like the farmer out in the field who's pumping the, you know, he knows there's water down there, and he just keeps pumping. Why? Because he has no other choice. And if you put yourself in a situation, and we'll talk about a guy I did this to just before Christmas. If you put yourself in a situation where you commit to something and you can't back out, you know, like Hannibal or whatever that other guy was that dragged the boats on the shore and burned them so the soldiers couldn't go back in the sea, whatever that story was. Great idea. They only had one way to go, but forward. And you know who the guy was? Cortez. I never would have guessed. Cortez.
Caesar was the first. Yeah, yeah.
You're right.
That was a
You're right. Excuse me. Hold on, hope I don't hurt anybody.
You all signed a
I apologize.
But just
So,
as a validation of this, yeah.
Go ahead.
We jump on each other. We're poster boys for ADD. You're going to get, sorry. To validate this, raise your hand if you or anybody you know has ever had multiple job offers. You had all of a sudden, so that's a lot of hands. That's pretty much everybody. And before that, what was going on? Nothing. Nothing. So what looks like failure, you could be digging, you know, down a mine shaft and you're getting closer to the diamond vein. And if you quit 6 inches before, sorry. But if you just keep going a little bit further, you end up getting 1 and then 2 and 3. You know, I've had clients get 3 offers in the same week. And that kind of thing happens when you've just been priming the pump like that.
Exactly. Can I do one quick story? And then,
Yeah.
sorry, if I'm boring you, you just put your hand up, and I'll say you can leave. Just kidding. Just kidding. I was here back in November, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, tall fellow. Anyway, he was doing everything right. Had the list, very focused, had a good resume. Martin had done it, still wasn't getting the traction he wanted. So we're talking about this, and I said, well, you know, like, when do you run out of money? He said, what do you mean, when do I run out of money? I said, well, most guys don't get a job. It's not the same for women, by the way. Don't know what's going on here, guys. Most guys don't get a job till they run out of money, either a couple of days before or a couple of days after. It's true. It just, all of a sudden, from heaven, boom, oh, I like this one. I got it. This one's mine. So I said, listen, take your wife tonight, take a calendar, go in the kitchen, and ask her to pick a date. And circle the calendar. He said, what for? He says, because that's the day you're going to get a job. And you tell her that she's going to circle the day, and you're going to get a job on that day. Now, he looks at me, and I go, listen, it works. So, it was the 24th or the 25th of December. I don't hear from him. And all of a sudden, I get these calls. David, got to talk to you. David, I'm not there. I'm in Florida. I'm at Disney World, man. I'm having fun. And I'm getting calls from this guy. Anyway, make a long story short, in the first couple of days of January, he calls me up and says, listen. Oh, I said, hi, how you doing? He said, listen, I got these offers. He said, yeah, you got a bunch of them? Did it work? He goes, oh, yeah, it worked just beautifully, but I turned them all down. So I just want to let you know that, you know, technically I made the 25th date. I committed to that. I made the 25th date, but I turned all those offers down, but I took one yesterday. So I just wanted you to know that. I said, oh, thank you very much. It's one of your students. And so that actually does work. It sounds so silly, and it sounds so simple. But if you think about it, you know I'm right. And, of course, he knows I'm right, because it worked.
He's working now.